Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Veg Networking Canada. It is important to honor, acknowledge, and respect that many of us are located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of many Indigenous peoples of Canada. Veg Networking Canada is a community where vegan plant-based companies connect and collaborate. Today, we have a special guest who is the founder of a multi-award-winning CPG brand, an active member of BC Food and Beverage, the Canadian Health Food Association, Surrey Board of Trade, and Feeding Growth. She has an extensive background in fine dining, sales, promotions, and marketing, with a deep love and appreciation for nutrition and children. Veg Networking Canada is pleased to introduce the founder of Boosh Plant-Based Brands. Welcome, Connie Marples.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. And can you tell everybody listening more about why Boosh went down the whole vegan plant-based route and what does that origin story look like?
Sure, love to. So my passion has always been cooking, and it's always I'm 61 and I've been cooking since I was 14, and it's always been primarily vegetable based. Even as a teenager, that's just what I loved at that time. It wasn't necessarily on trend to be vegetarian back then, but that's just been what I've always loved, and I've never enjoyed animal consumption. So I wanted to get more and more people kind of converting over to that path. I've always been aware of obviously trends in eating, but more importantly, what we need to do to change our behavior and make the planet a healthier place. So I started out making meals for home delivery and sort of testing the recipes, and got a really good feedback from the customers that you're dealing front hand with, what they liked, what they didn't like. And then from that, we launched the frozen Boosh bowls, which are not only 100% plant-based, but they're non-GMO and they're also gluten-free. And I did that because A, I'm celiac, but B, I wanted it to be all-inclusive food, because a lot of the wonderful vegan food that's out there is great, but people like me can't necessarily eat it because obviously celiacs have to be very careful. So we launched with our Boosh bowls back late 2019 in retail stores in British Columbia. And then from there, it's just sort of grown. We went public 6 months later. It wasn't something I had originally intended, but I really wanted to grow the brand. And through that, we were able to make some amazing acquisitions, some of which we converted into Boosh products, like beautiful veggie pate made in Salt Spring Island, Salt Spring Harvest, it was called, and Pulse Kitchen, a wonderful nut and seed-based cheese made in Penticton. And we took those two lines and we changed them. They're now called Amuse Bouche. So that's our sort of appetizer line of very high quality, beautiful vegan charcuterie. And our most recent and largest acquisition is Beanfields Chips. And it's a big vegan, non-GMO, bean-based chip company based out of the US that had been around since 2010. Great company, and but had run into some cash problems, etc. So we purchased that, and that's kind of our primary asset at this time. And so it's been a big journey, lots going on, super fun and exciting, but very intense being in a public company and navigating all of that, because it's not something I was previously familiar with. So yeah, that's how I started and where we are.
Amazing. And for everybody who has not had Beanfields chips, if you're like me, maybe you don't have self-control when you crack open a bag, so don't listen to this next part, but they are insanely delicious. So if you spot them in Beanfields, get your hands on them. And it's nice that they're made from beans, so you can tell yourself that you're eating a health food as you crush the whole bag. Connie had mentioned that the company is public, and so you can find them. We'll mention it again at the end, but the ticker is Veggie, and it's VEGI. So that's the ticker that you can find them under.
Mhm.
You talked a little bit there about sort of in a snapshot about Boosh, but correct correct us if we're wrong, but that's probably not your entrepreneurial origin story. It's probably not kind of where it started, right? With Boosh. Was there businesses before that?
Yes, I have. Well, early on, I was in sales and marketing, and like I mentioned, you mentioned in my bio, fine dining experience, sort of early days. But I opened, a number of smaller businesses, a promotional business, years ago. I mean, again, I'm 60, so I've done a lot of stuff. But I had an event management business where I did major, massive events, which was really fun and interesting. And then, but my passion always comes back to food. So I opened a wine bar in Kelowna, which was really fun. And it was actually one of the very first ones in Canada, actually North America, believe it or not. And then a couple of years later, I opened one in Kitsilano in Vancouver with a wine store attached to it. And that one got rated Condé Nast Traveler's top 80 new restaurants in the world. I don't know how we managed to pull that out, but we did. We had a really good night when they came in, and we didn't know they were there. But so I've had other businesses for sure, and I love creating. I love uh, seeing people enjoy healthy, beautiful food. I have a very good palate. And so, I had kind of gone back into sales. I was working with my husband in real estate, but I actually got quite sick. Adrenal fatigue, my allergies that I've got very, very bad. And I sort of had to get myself centered and figure out what I needed. And I felt like I wasn't following my bliss, and I needed to fulfill my passion to help other people, have more plants in their diet. I really got messaging that, my vision was, it's hard. People want to go vegan, people want to eat more plants, but they just don't know where to start. And we're also conditioned. I'm lucky because I cooked since I was a kid, but so many people don't have a clue, right? They're just used to their go-to. So our original plan was to, really create recipes that people are already familiar with. So obviously the comfort food thing, but that's my reason for doing it, and passion is to just help people transition. And if whether it means they go vegan or not, that's their personal decision. But definitely, the mass consumption has to change. And the more people that do that, obviously, the better off everything is. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, in terms of the plant-based vegan CPG space, because that's the sandbox that you're playing in, if you would, can you
yeah.
touch a little bit more, if you could, on transformations or trends within that space that you've spotted or are starting to spot coming down the pike?
Yeah, I think so. So I think everyone's aware originally it was all about the meat replacement, trying to replicate meat, and that sort of captured everyone's interest. And, Beyond Meat did a good job of that, of getting out into hospitality. I think that was a very smart way for them to go. But people have sort of moved past that. So more and more ready to eat meals are coming out like ours. Ours was one of the early ones, but there's a lot coming out now, and nice choices, great choices. And then, of course, we're seeing now, then there was the chicken, and now there's a lot of fish coming, replication of fish. And that's improving dramatically in terms of, you know, mouthfeel and flavor profile, etc. So I think the next sort of phase is it started out with not fast food, but yeah, actually a lot of it was fast food, chicken nuggets, that kind of thing. Now people, I think, are looking for more functional foods, more healthful, more whole food, plant-based. Like that's what we all really need, right? I mean, sure, it's great to have a burger here and there and fill your boots with this and that, but you want to be able to feel good after you eat it too, ultimately, to be able to keep people sustainable on a plant-based diet. So I'm seeing more of that. And I think more so in the future, with food companies like ours, we're, researching things like what can we add to our recipe formulations, like a lot more turmeric as an example in our so that it becomes an actual supporting your gut system as opposed to just a flavor profile. So those kinds of things I think will be the next step.
Yeah, that's got a nice ring to it, functional foods. And yeah, absolutely for sure. And the finding ingredients to boost the nutritional profile, like you mentioned, that's great. That's good to hear. Now, you've
Yeah.
already done a wonderful job of like telling us kind of where Boosh started and getting us up to speed today. The next question is, where is the brand going in the future?
Okay. So the last year, I have to admit, has been very, very challenging for us. We purchased bean fields right when the capital markets crashed. So all of a sudden we have this wonderful asset, but it needed a ton of money put into it, like because they were a much bigger company than we were. And it's like, oh, now we have to feed this giant. So much of the past year has been on me focusing my energy on raising capital, which isn't my forte or first love, but I've learned a lot and have met some amazing people and had some great support, and we're on a good path now. But it's literally taken us a year. So we've been kind of bootstrapping through this year, just producing as much as we could. Kind of had to put Boosh on hold a little bit. We luckily our main line is frozen, so we had a lot of inventory. So we've kind of worked through that. So now the next phase, now that we're just in the have just getting the recapitalize portion of our work done, is first and foremost we are building up bean fields to what it was prior to uh, COVID numbers, and there's a couple reasons for that. One is it's a really well established brand, so we need that for business purposes for capital. But the other is it's a really good entry point for people that are trying to become more plant-based and more healthful. You know, it's a non-GMO, you know, high protein, high fiber, vegan, delicious snack, right? Eats like a Dorito, but you feel good after you eat it. So we're, you know, we're trying, we want to build that up first and get more and more people going, wow, this is good. And it just gets them more interested in plant-based as a whole. So other than that, so we've got our main line of chips. There are two lines in the Beanfields banner that one is cracklins and the other is rings that we're not producing right now. We will be bringing those back up, and those are super tasty as well, and you know, bring more snacks to the marketplace. But then what we really want to do is get back to business on Boosh and start growing that brand again, because it's just got so much potential, and we have a lot of national retailers that have agreed to take it in, you know, all their stores, but that costs a lot of money, right? You know, people go, oh well, why don't you just so it's like you have to pay your listing fees, and you got to pay for all your upfront costs and the marketing dollars that go attached to it. So then it'll be getting Boosh back up and running, because my family and I had one of our shepherd's pies and a pot pie last night, which I haven't had in ages. And they're both, we had that with a big salad, and we watched Survivor, and we're going, wow, this is good, you know, like, which is nice to say about your own food, but it had been some time since I'd had it. And I just felt really happy and grateful that, yeah, if I were just a family not connected to this food and eating it, I'd be super happy, because it's, you know, made from great ingredients and lots of flavors. So yeah, get
Wonderful,
back to Boosh.
wonderful. Yeah, there you go. That's what's in store for the future. Get back to Boosh and build up bean fields. That's amazing. So
Yeah,
next question, we always say there's no right or wrong answers, and it might be you
yeah.
might speak to it personally and or from the company lens, but it's about giving back and charity. Like, what does that mean to you, and or are there specific organizations and outfits that you love supporting?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we sort of chose early on as a mandate that we would do food related causes. There's so many people out there that can't necessarily afford to have plant-based ready-made meals in their diet. So we give to a lot of the food banks: Surrey, Vancouver, Cloverdale, Sources, which is White Rock, the Central Okanagan. So we've always been a big giver of food banks, as well as women and children's shelters. There's a number of those that we work with, and some organizations down on the Lower East Side. So and we give to them with product, and we've been very we've given as much as we can, and we will continue to do so. So we love that.
Yeah, well, it's totally in line with what you're doing in the space, and everybody needs food. It's not a want; it's a need. And so, if you can
Mhm.
keep it healthy and keep it delicious and give back in that way, it makes sense. So,
Yeah.
along your journey, can you share some resources that have helped you, whether it's from leadership, mindset, who knows, it might be finance related, it might be something completely out of left field, but that's the next question is centered around resources, whether it's books, documentaries, podcasts, websites, apps on your
Mhm.
phone, anything like that that people might not know and that could help them in their journey.
Well, I think the single biggest thing for me, me personally, because I tend to get stressed out. I take on a lot, and I go go go, and I think well, all of us have a lot of going on in our lives. But so for me, my single biggest challenge, and it is keeping centered, keeping calm, keeping happy, keeping focused, keeping my vibrational energy high. I'm a spiritual person, and I believe strongly in, what you put out there, you get back. And so, first of all, I meditate every day, twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. And I learned transcendental meditation when I was a kid. My mom was way ahead of her time in the 70s. So that's been a huge godsend. But I've been trying different things like Silva mind control has been really, really incredibly helpful for me. And it's actually, I believe, helping my some of my issues. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to cure my celiac and allergies, but I definitely feel like it's helping me get centered, and my gut health has been improving. So meditation for me has been the single biggest thing. And then I'm always reading, on personal development, everything from say Brene Brown. She's pretty cool. Her Dare to Lead has been helpful for me in helping lead my team. I really like her. And then I do listen to a lot of YouTube. My feed is everything like Joe Dispenza and Abraham Hicks and all that kind of stuff that is all related to, high positive energy, and thinking about what you want, not what you don't want. Don't think about all the terrible things that, because there's always challenges, and just keep your eye on the prize and stay focused on that as much as you can, and be grateful for everything else. And that I find has been, I often need reminders because I do go off on a tangent and get stressed out, but that for me is what keeps me grounded and keeps me moving forward and enjoying the ride along the way. Yeah.
Wow, it's so great. And we'll that kind of touches on the last one, which is centered around like tips, wisdom, lessons, and advice. And maybe we'll dive a little bit deeper into that. But those are great resources that you mentioned as well. So this kind of dovetails a little bit off of the last question, and this one's about inspiration. So we've had people, obviously think of individuals and or organizations that inspire them, and we've had people also mention like what inspiration actually means to them, or more on like a philosophical level. So take it how you want, but the question for you is like, what does inspiration mean to you, or where do you source it?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm a creative person, so I find as long as I'm keeping my life balanced and kind of looking within and doing my meditation, I do get a lot of sort of downloads that way. That's where a lot of my best ideas come from, is when I'm in that sort of headspace and in a relaxed state of consciousness. But externally, I get so much inspiration from everything around me. I do love to read vegan cookbooks. I have a wonderful collection of cookbooks, and I'm actually working on my own cookbook right now, which is going to be kind of Connie and Friends, because I have so many great people that have contributed as chefs to Boosh, and just people in the vegan community I want to incorporate into my book. So I love networking, and I love, trying other people's products, and so that would be inspiration for my actual business. But just general in life is staying connected to the community and networking, and the BC Food and Business, all these wonderful events we have for the food industry. The people that you meet and the support that you get is just phenomenal. So I get a lot of inspiration from other business leaders as well. So
Yeah, from people who are moving and shaking and following their, I think you said earlier in the conversation, following their bliss, right? So
yeah,
getting
for sure.
inspiration from others will help, one should, I guess, in theory. If you're being inspired by people following their bliss, it'll help you follow yours. So that
Yeah.
sounds very exciting too, by the way, Connie and friends. That sounds incredible. Now, it feels like we just started talking, 2 seconds ago, but we're already here, sort of at our last conversation starter for you, which
Right.
is framed around tips, wisdom, lessons, advice. The last part, advice, some people like framing it like that, some don't. So, however you like to frame this question, it's really like what has worked for you in your journey that, and you're speaking to people who might be an entrepreneur themselves. They might be new into it. They might be, deep into it, and or people who have that burning passion, but they're in the typical 9 to 5 and they want to do the thing, but they haven't yet. So you're speaking to quite a wide swath of people. But any tips, wisdom, lessons, or advice?
Well, when I was a kid, I used to daydream all the time, and I often got in trouble for that in school. But I think now, as an entrepreneur, that was always my greatest asset. And I think you need to really visualize and daydream and pretend and think about what you want and keep it in a journal or, I like to write every day a little bit. I bet you Sandra does that too, our wonderful writer here on the team. Yeah, I think that just keeping true to who you are and what you visualize for yourself, and don't be afraid to dream big. It doesn't have to happen all at once, but it's great to dream really big. Like if you could have anything you wanted, what would that look like? And you might not know it, but if you keep asking that question, you'll figure it out, and then start working towards it. And I think visualization and daydreaming and writing it all down is a big part of that process.
Well, surely that's actually quite powerful words because I guess for some, maybe not, but for a lot of people, it's probably easy to think and visualize or dream what they want. But there have been plenty of people along the course of history who have said the key is taking it and actually putting it down on paper. So actually connecting those two pieces. So that makes total sense. So Connie, before we let everybody know the Boosh website, the Boosh Instagram, and talk about the ticker again, is there anything that came up in the conversation that you want to double back on? Anything that we missed, or announcements for the companies, or anything like that that you want to bring up before we let you go?
Yeah, no, I don't have any announcements. As a public company, we have to do that all through a proper channel. So nothing there. The only other thing I would say is any entrepreneurs, if they're interested in particularly in the food aspect of it, there's certainly a lot of support out there. I took a lot of courses. I did the feeding growth course at UBC. I did a startup program through a downtown organization. The name escapes me, but seminars and any, no matter what type of an entrepreneur you might want to be, there's so much information out there. So start networking and get out and ask a lot of questions, because I can't believe how helpful people have been to me in terms of giving advice, and I certainly am happy to take calls or answer questions individually if anyone has any. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And so, yeah, last little piece of wisdom there is don't be afraid to ask, to pick somebody's
Mhm.
brain because they were likely in the same position at you as one point. And that's so great. Thank you so much for being open for people reaching out to you and contacting you to pick your brain. So, everybody, you can find out more online, www.booshfood.com, BOOSH food.com. And it's the same on Instagram at Boosh Food. And again, the ticker is VEGI. So veggie, VEGI. Before we let you go, Connie, actually, is there like any type of a quick story or anything behind the name Boosh?
Yes. Well, originally it was going to be an app and strictly an online forum. So I wanted it to have kind of a name that relates to food, but in a nonsensical manner, sort of kind of playful. So bouche is a play on words for mouth in French. If it was spelled correctly, Bouche is bouche, right? So when we found this word, I like the sound of it too, bouche. When we found the word, it in the Urban Dictionary, it actually meant to live life with joy. So it really resonated with me, and it all came together. And then when we did amuse bouche, which is our appetizer line, that means a small bite, right? It all just kind of played together. So yeah,
Wonderful. Thank you for
different.
sharing that little tidbit. And so, for everybody listening who wants to live life with more joy, thanks for joining us today. And this has been another conversation with another awesome entrepreneur, the founder of Boosh Plant-Based Brands, Connie Marples. Everybody else, thank you. We'll see you again on another episode of Veg Networking Canada. Bye for now. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you.